Hello and good afternoon friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, in this very lecture today we are going to talk about contours of regionalism in India. Under this very topic, we are going to cover regionalism from 1960s to 1980s as well as its new connotations, that is in its present form, where in India regionalism has taken place or it has reached. And for this we have with us in our studios Dr. Subhash Mohapatra. He is Associate Professor in the Department of Sociology, University of Delhi. He has more than 25 years of teaching experience as well as he has authored about 3 books. He has been delivering lectures both at national and international platforms. So I would like to welcome our guest Dr. Subhash Mohapatra. Welcome to the EduSec lecture of ours, sir, and I would like you to give a deep insight into this very topic, that is regionalism in India.
Right. Thank you so much. It's a good experience once again to be back to EduSet network and address to my students and colleagues all over the country. Contours of regionalism is a very important topic we are deliberating in the field of social science today. I'll be dividing my lecture into 3 parts, and in the first part of the lecture I'll be dealing with the concepts related to regionalism. What is regionalism? Why regionalism? And different dimensions to regionalism. In the second part of my lecture, I'll be addressing to the questions of regionalism that evolved in India at different points of time for differential purpose. And in the third part of my lecture, I'll be talking about regionalism and its contemporary relevance both in the politics and society of India. When one talks about regionalism, the very idea comes to the mind. What is regionalism? Region means a territory. Ism refers to an idea. People living in a particular territory are not just constituting a territorial group. Rather, people living in a territory, they speak in a given language, practice unique culture, go for distinctive food habits, dress pattern, trace their history to particular bodies of characters and people. Therefore, people living in a particular region, sharing common emotion, common culture, common identity, common way of life, do voluntarily come together. Therefore, regionalism is not just a political manifestation of the aspirations of the people. Rather, regionalism is having a strong social, cultural outlines in it. If one looks into the history of India, one finds out that prior to colonial rule, people of India were living in different territories. They are speaking in different kinds of language, practicing different kinds of culture, following distinctive way of life. And what was really unifying them together is common values, common norms, mostly imbibed from out of Hinduism. Therefore, unlike states of Europe, India never evolved into a political state prior to colonial rule or prior to Mughal rule in India. Different regions being connected to each other culturally, socially, emotively made a sense of India. And the people living in different territories, they used to fight war against each other. At the same time, they also come closer to each other. Therefore, consensus and conflict among different regional communities were the essential part of Indian society. Therefore, the beauty of Indian society was the diversity in different forms were respected by different local communities. Therefore, common value consensus was holding India together. Thus, in that context, love for a region, love for a culture, love for a language, love for a given kind of historicity is very much imbibed in the cultural tradition of Indian society. With the rise of colonial rulers, India became a political state, and India got united together on the basis of common administrative network, common judicial system, common rules of law, Indian railways, Indian postal system. Therefore, the whole idea of political India, threading different cultural communities together, linguistic groups together, was become somehow possible during British period. It is to be remembered, also during British period, 560 odd states were given some kind of partial autonomy. Therefore, regional identities were vibrant among these people. The quest for self-governance was present among the people. Therefore, when a centralized state is making appearance, love for region and regional diversity is not dying out in case of India. If one looks into European history, one will be finding out people living in a particular region, speaking in a given language, they developed nation states. You know, like French people, they made France, Britishers made Britain, Germans made Germany. But India is a making of different cultures, different linguistic groups, different traditions, those who are sharing different kinds of history, but yet coming together on the basis of common adherence to values, norms and ideology. Therefore, nationalism in India is a voluntaristic construct, and state of India is a colonial construct. It is to be remembered that during nationalist movement in India, attempts were made to bring different regional leaders together, who, forgetting their regional affiliations, will be coming together and participate in India's nationalist movement and fight a war against colonial rule. Therefore, to develop that Indianness among the people, the regional leaders, they never primarily abandon their regional identities. Rather, glorifying their regional identity, they evolved a kind of nationalist identity. Therefore, regionalism and nationalism coexisted in India. During nationalist movement, we also find out that regional aspirations were so strong among the people that in Lucknow session of Congress, 1916, it was decided that the future of India is to develop a confederation where autonomy, maximum autonomy, will be given to different provinces. Therefore, provinces will be getting maximum autonomy, and voluntarily they will be coming together, and they will be consciously, deliberately developing the state of India. Therefore, rise of Indian state has always respected to the regional affinity, identity of the people at large in case of Indian society. Similarly, we find out that in case of India, regionalism is not just a territorial identity. One finds out that during Quit India movement, Congress decided that in the independent India, lot of autonomous states should be getting relative autonomy, but at the same time, these quasi-autonomous states will be joining the state of India. Many representations came from different linguistic regions, asking for a kind of autonomy or maximum autonomy, though they are eager to become a part of Indian state. So, therefore, regional interest and national interest used to coexist together among the political leadership in India during nationalist movement. If one look into history of India during 1946, one finds out Periyar gave a call for Dravidstan. He indicated that nationalist movement in India is a movement of the North Indians, and North Indian culture is distinctly different from South Indian culture. Therefore, when India is getting its independence, that political autonomy should also be extended to the people of South India, as their culture, their history, their heredity is different from the people of North India. Therefore, while creating state in India, culture is playing a very big role. And on the basis of this culture, people are coming together and articulating their political aspirations. Thus, while speaking about regionalism in India, one should not consider regionalism as a political discourse. Rather, one finds out that behind this political aspiration, culture is playing a significant role in holding people together, mitigating their internal differences, providing space for homogenization, and that homogenization is instrumental for the political articulation. Thus, regionalism is having a strong historicity in Indian society, and its historicity is so strong that Communist Party of India in 1946 believed that in independent India we should be constituting around 17 different constituent assemblies, and they should be writing constitution for different 17 provincial states. In the line of America, autonomous states will be coming together voluntarily and become a part of the federal state of India. Therefore, spirit of regionalism was so greatly profound in case of India's independence time that it was perceived that to hold India together, one must have to respect to, accommodate to regional aspirations of the people. Thus, one finds out in Indian Constitution, Article 1, 2 and 3 are providing sufficient space for addressing to the question of regionalism. These articles talk about the provisions where a new state can be created, existential territorial boundaries of the state can be altered, territorial boundaries of two adjoining states can be merged through a parliamentary debate involving the states which are affected by the policy of the center. So, therefore, always attempts are made by Indian Constitution and quasi-federal polity of India to negotiate with the regional aspirations of the people to make Indian democracy stronger, deeper, pervasive and inclusive. If one looks into the political theories, there are many theories who are reflecting on regionalism in distinctive ways. Primordial theory in political science advocates that primordial consciousness will die out with the advent of modernity. One's affinity with region is conventional, parochial, provincial and traditional. When a society becomes modern, the differences between different regions, economic, political, social, cultural, will be eroded. As a result, different states of a particular country will be voluntarily coming together to participate in national economic development process, political process, and for the development of the society at large. Therefore, modernists consider that love for region, love for one's language, love for one's culture is purely traditional and they will die out with the advent of modernity. And that reminds me of an interesting observation made by Lucian Pye. Lucian Pye has said, tradition is not standing opposite to modernity. And the modernity exists in different cultures, modernity influenced to different cultures in divergent ways. And in the context of India, modernity always creates space. Modernity is always reserving certain kind of space for the accommodation of traditions. So therefore, in case of Indian society, the question is not that the presence of traditional forces is talking about traditional democracy in India. Rather, how these traditional forces are negotiating, engaging themselves with the demands of modernity from time to time. Therefore, when we speak about regionalism, meaning love for region, love for culture, love for history, love for heredity, this may be a kind of commitment to tradition. But staying committed to tradition, one is not questioning to modernity, rather to benefit from modernity, one is conforming to tradition. Therefore, beauty of regionalism in India is that India going for regionalism is not contesting to modern institution called as democracy, quasi-federal democracy. Rather, regionalism in case of India is negotiating with democratic political structure in different ways for differential purpose at different points of time. Therefore, to me, regionalism is not something good or something bad. Regionalism is not something inclusive or it is separatist in character. Rather, to me, regionalism is a dynamic force making appearance in Indian polity and Indian society for differential purpose at different points of time. Thus, we must have to make sense of regionalism, looking into different kinds of regionalism prevalent in Indian culture and history and polity at different points of time. For example, regionalism we see in case of Darjeeling Hills cannot be equated with regionalism we find out in case of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh. We cannot see same kind of regionalism when there is a call for Harit Pradesh or Telangana. Therefore, regionalism is manifested in different ways for differential purpose at different points of time. We must have to make sense of regionalism addressing to the diverse nature of Indian society, diversified aspirations of the people of India depending on time and space. So therefore, when I reflect on regionalism in India, I must have to make it clear that regionalism is not necessarily political or always political. I am citing a small example. When I look at Delhi and find out, people in Chittaranjan Park, they celebrate Durga Puja with lot of fanfare and intensity. I see in that kind of celebration a kind of cultural awakening, regional cultural awakening. People living in Delhi, those who are uprooted from their culture, belonging to Bengali community, are reenacting their Bengali culture within a space that we call as metropolis or cosmopolis. Their love for regional language, love for regional food, love for regional rituals, love for regional identity is something voluntaristic. It is not necessarily political. It is rather filling to one's heart, giving him a sense of existence when there is a possibility of one's loss of identity because of one's exposure to modernity or globalized world. Therefore, regionalism is having a strong cultural foundation to it. Similarly, one finds out people go for regionalism or they manifest regionalism by putting on a kind of costume unique to their region. In recent past, this assembly of Madras Family State Assembly passed a legislation that people can enter into different clubs putting on their ethnic dress, which were forbidden. So now this is a manifestation of cultural protection, promotion, identity. So this is also a symbolic form of manifestation of regionalism. Therefore, regionalism is political and expressive. Regionalism can also be cultural and implicit. Therefore, different dimension to regionalism, if we reflect upon, then we can look into universal nature of regionalism. Therefore, regionalism will not be dying out with the advent of a kind of new political state, constitutionalism, inclusive democracy, and so on. Let me get back to our understanding of historicity of regionalism in India. As I told before, that during nationalist movement, the leaders of nationalist movement had strong affiliation with regions, and they had also a great aspiration of converting their regions into independent nations or quasi-independent nations. Keeping this in mind, the leaders of Congress realized that growing incidents of regionalism may lead to sub-nationalism, and sub-nationalism may lead to call for a differential nationalism, disintegrating India into different pieces. One would notice that in case of Northeast, Nagas were demanding for secessionism. They made a kind of appeal to Simon Commission. There was a demand for Dravidstan, demand for secession of Jammu Kashmir from India. So with these kind of turmoils, India grew up, born as an independent nation. And leaders of Congress realized that India should be evolving into a quasi-federal nation than being born as a federal nation, as a replica of United States of America. Therefore, provisions in the Constitution were spelled out that center will be having more power over the states. Therefore, state list, concurrent list, and central list was prepared. The subjects under concurrent list, over these subjects, center is having more power as against the state. Governor is recruited in all the states to regularly report to the center, to the president, about the political activities there. And emergency power is lying with the President of India. Fiscal autonomy is given to center, which will be distributing resources to different states to undertake developmental activities. So therefore, emergency power, control over concurrent list, appointment of governor, so all these factors are giving more power to center as against the state. But Constitution also clearly demarcates that the center cannot be autocratic in relation to states. Therefore, center-state relationship is balanced through the promulgations of the rules spelled out by the Constitution. Pandit Nehru felt that for the building of a modern India, one must have to neutralize the regional aspirations of the people. Therefore, Nehru had a grand idea of developing a nation state in India, neutralizing to the regional aspirations. Therefore, what he did was that within his cabinet, he included the people, those who are the voice of different regions, initiated plans and programs for the regional development, and he believed expanding industries, modern system of education, growing employment, process of modernization, one can bring equality between the regions. And through political participation of different communities, one can make Congress as a nationalist political party, that is including to aspirations of different classes, communities and regions, and everybody will be engaged in the process of nation building than striving for secessionism or disintegration. Therefore, the political agenda of Pandit Nehru had a nationalist vision that was instrumental to counter, negotiate, neutralize regionalism in case of Indian society. However, after the death of Pandit Nehru in 1964, one finds out certain kinds of development took place in India, where Congress as a party system declined, regional aspirations got a momentum, and that consequently gave rise to the growth of regional parties in India. From 1964 to 1977, if one looks into the political history of India, one would be finding out that during this period, the benefits of economic modernity was not equitably distributed in different regions. If one looks into the impact of Green Revolution, one would be noticing that Green Revolution gave prosperity to the people in certain pockets of the country. The major beneficiaries of Green Revolution were the people of Punjab, Haryana and Western UP. Subsequently, Green Revolution spread to certain pockets of South India. Now, the peasantry who benefited from this Green Revolution, they developed a form of political aspirations. It's important to note that Green Revolution could give dividend to Indian peasantry because it supported the introduction of modern technology. It primarily made supplies for the modern market system. It used science and technology to intensify and accelerate production. Therefore, modern technology, modern market, modern knowledge contributed for the prosperity of peasantry in case of India. Therefore, once they get access to prosperity, then automatically they are recalling their provincial identity, primordial identity. So, therefore, in case of Punjab, one finds out the prosperous peasantry were the Jat Sikhs, and these Jat Sikhs are making a demands for the creation of a state where Punjabi domination should be present or Sikh domination should be present. So, therefore, once prosperity comes into prominence, then this prosperity offers a foundation to political aspiration of the people. And correspondingly, we find out there is a call for, creation of a state that is dominated by the Sikh population, because Sikhs, Jat Sikhs benefiting from Green Revolution want to primarily capture power. Therefore, they are dominant in the Akali Dal, and Akali politics is patronizing to, catering to the interest of prosperous peasants in case of Punjab. So, once modernity gives benefit to the people, receiving this benefit from modernity, people develop a kind of political aspiration, as a result of which ethnic identity, regionalism and modernity are coming together and providing a platform for the political articulation of the people. So, one will be finding out that articulation of regionalism is taking place in India in different ways at different points of time. Therefore, 1964 to 1977, one finds out this kind of regionalism is making appearance in case of Punjab. During this period, another interesting development takes place, that is, centralization of Congress. When Congress party is getting centralized, the political leadership in different regions, they are not getting a chance to play their complete political roles effectively, staying within the party, Congress party. Therefore, many regional leaders who are finding it difficult to gratify their political goals, staying within Congress party, are splitting out of Congress. And splitting out of Congress, they are constituting different regional parties. So, if you look into these political formations, one finds out these regional parties are primarily giving importance on the problems of the people belonging to a particular region, glorifying stepmotherly attitude of the center towards the state. They are going for cultural revivalism. Old heroes are coming back to regional politics. Therefore, regional leaders developing regional party, going for cultural revivalism, on the one hand gratifying their political goals and using regionalism or culture as a foundation to their political success. So, regionalism is a product of disintegration or centralization of Congress, and once Congress is centralized, then there is a split in the party that is giving rise to the growth of regional parties, making regionalism stronger and deeper in case of Indian polity. At this point of time, one also finds out during 1970s, there is a separation of parliamentary election from that of assembly elections. When in parliamentary election, the issues of national importance are raised. In assembly election, local issues like electricity, irrigation facilities, plights of the farmers, cottage industries. So, all these matters are discussed which are core to the heart of the people of the locality. And since majority of population in India do not have a macroscopic vision, the regional parties are coming close to the aspirations of the people. Therefore, in many pockets of the country, regional parties are winning the election as against the national parties. Therefore, rise of regional parties are the product of a historical process. So, wherein we find out nationalist political parties are winning parliamentary election and regional political parties are winning the state election, as a result of which regional parties and national parties are bound to develop a kind of interface with each other. And this interface at that point of time subsequently gave a new dimension to coalition politics in India. If I look into other kinds of regionalism evolving in different pockets of the country, I would be primarily looking into three different forms of regionalism we experienced in India, and in relation to that I will be developing the argument how the reasons behind regionalism is different, appeal of regionalism is different, outcomes of regionalism is different. Therefore, regionalism is going to stay in Indian society in one form or the other for differential purpose at different points of time. Let me first look into son of the soil movement in case of Assam that got a momentum during 1980s. If one looks at Assam, one finds out Marwadis and Punjabis are big industrialists in Assam. They are the owners of tea gardens in Assam. They have taken coal blocks in auction in Assam. Therefore, if there is a class of bourgeois in case of Assam, they are mostly the people who are entrepreneurs coming from outside the state. If one looks into employees working in different governmental institutions, most of these employees working in the school, in bureaucracy, in other small scale industries, were the people those who have migrated from the West Bengal. Therefore, Bengalis were greatly visible in case of Assam, more specifically in government services. Also in case of Assam, Muslim and Hindu migrants from other states, they have come to Assam in search of employment opportunities. Now, Assamese, educated Ahumis, they found out that their chances of getting into job market is absolutely bleak because of the vast presence of Bengali population there. Therefore, their basic objective was to get access to employment. But if they only speak about employment, public mobilization is not possible. Therefore, they primarily treated Bengalis are the ones, those who are snatching opportunities away from that of the local population. It is very interesting to note that this hatred against the Bengali community was greatly glorified through the use of modern technology. Take for example printing press. Leaflets were primarily printed in this printing press. Booklets were published, distributed among all the people to create an awareness among them that Ahomis are not getting access to opportunities, living within their home state, that is being taken away by Bengali population. Therefore, modern technology, modern means of communication were used to consolidate this kind of concern, hatred against another community. As a result, starting from students to peasants to commoners in case of Assam, they came together and initiated a campaign, drive out Bengalis from out of Assam. And this was primarily projected that most of the Bengalis in case of Assam are the illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. And that subsequently gave rise to the growth of Assam Ganasangram Parishad movement. Therefore, movement subsequently got converged into a political party. Assam Ganasangram Party evolved into a political party, regional political party that initiated a movement against the outsiders or the illegal immigrants. But when this government came to power, made a survey, it found out that most of the Bengalis working in Assam were very much Indians. And the intensity of outsiders, illegal immigrants, Bengali illegal immigrants is as low as 4%. Therefore, regionalism is a product of economic necessity of the people. When jobless are asking for jobs, to primarily get jobs assured for them, they target the people who are not the sons of the soil, initiate a movement, go for protest and mobilization, and the product of this protest and mobilization is a political party. Therefore, regional political parties are evolving in India for differential purpose as a reflection to time and space. You know, the growth of this regional party is so greatly different from the growth of a regional party we see in case of Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, one finds out that Periyar initiated self-respect movement. Periyar said that Tamil culture is as ancient or more ancient in comparison to Hindu culture, Aryan culture, Sanskritic culture. It is the Brahminic colonialism coming from North India is greatly responsible for the marginalization of Tamil culture. Therefore, to protect and promote Tamil culture, all Tamilian populations should be coming together. Whether a Tamilian man is primarily Hindu or a Muslim, belonging to higher caste or lower caste, they must have to forget their religious differences, ethnic differences, come together, glorify their history, glorify their culture, glorify their language, and being unified together, they can fight a kind of war against the Brahminic colonialism or primarily the colonialism that is coming from outside. So, therefore, this kind of mobilization gave rise to the growth of Dravidian political party, known as Dravidam Munatram Kalagam. Therefore, once DMK came to power, DMK always protected, promoted and articulated the regional interest, cultural interest of the people at large. It is very interesting to see that this Dravidian political party directly communicates with the people, sharing people's culture, people's aspirations, people's concerns, people's dreams, people's imagination from the modern state of India. So therefore, regional ideology is articulated, political formations are taking place to get maximum advantage from out of the democratic state of India. Therefore, regionalism and democracy are not contesting with each other. Regionalism is not contrasting with the quasi-federal state of India. Now, the regional force is having a kind of bargaining relationship with that of the state to get maximum advantage in its own favor. Therefore, politics in a democratic setup is becoming vibrant today through political participation coming through the negotiation of regional forces. And that regionalism may come on the basis of cultural identity, on the basis of linguistic identity, or on the basis of caste identity, or on the basis of tribal identity. Therefore, ethnicization of politics is giving a new kind of meaning and purpose to regionalism in India. Therefore, regionalism is primarily founded on different kinds of social and cultural forces that must be explored to understand the dynamic nature of regionalism in India as against regionalism in other parts of the world. If one looks into regionalism in case of other pockets of the country, one finds out within a particular state there is sub-regional movements present. As I discussed little before, that in case of Assam, there was a regional movement that gave rise to the growth of a political party. But one finds out within Assam itself, Bodos came forward, 1980s. And these Bodos wanted primarily a new state for themselves, splitting away from Assam. Therefore, sub-regionalism is developing within a particular region. And why this aspiration of the Bodos? Political aspiration of Bodos? Bodos realize that most of their lands are taken off by the outsiders. Their lands are taken up for industrial purpose, urbanization purpose. Therefore, landlessness is a big issue in case of Bodos. And other tribes, when they come to Assam in search of employment, they settle down in the areas where indigenous tribal population or Bodo population is maximum, thinking that one tribe can negotiate with the culture of another tribe, cultural homogeneity will be developing, they can peacefully coexist with fellow tribal communities. So, Bodos on the one hand wanted separation from Assam and also wanted that other tribes should be leaving this place. So, therefore, in today's context we find out, even after creating Bodo autonomous councils, giving a large body of autonomy to the people, still are people developing a kind of aspirations in search of a separate statehood status. Therefore, within a region, sub-regionalism is there, and regionalism may be primarily reflecting on cultural aspiration of the people, cultural distinction of the people, or regionalism may be a product of economic aspirations of the people or a product of developmental programs initiated by the state. Why not reaching to a particular community or group? Therefore, contours of regionalism is greatly different in India. Varies from one particular area to another area, one place to another place, one point of time to another point of time. If one looks at Northeast, one would be noticing way back in 1930s, 16 different group of Nagas speaking in different languages, they came together. and started communicating with each other in a broken Ahomese language that is known as Nagami language. They constituted Naga club and wanted a separate Nagaland to be created on the eve of India's independence. Therefore, Naga identity became primarily a force to bring different tribes of Northeast into a common fold. Therefore, whether one is a Mizo, one is a Khasi, one is a Garo, so Naga identity is no longer a cultural identity, rather using this Naga identity, differential communities of Northeast would be coming together and create a larger state of Nagaland. If one goes to Northeast today, one will be finding out many minor and small tribes like Aimols, Chotes, so they lose out their identity, identify themselves as Nagas, because Naga identity is empowering a person. Therefore, whether one is born as a Naga or not, that is not important. Carrying Naga identity gives them a kind of satisfaction, gives them a kind of, political, identity. So therefore, Naga identity is not primarily, Naga identity is not something that one is born with, an identity created for self-glorification and empowerment. We created different states in Northeast on the basis of ethnicity. At different points of time, we created Mizoram, we created Meghalaya, we created Manipur. So all these states are created at different points of time on the basis of ethnic identity. In recent past, one finds out that Khasis, Garos, Jaintias are three major tribal groups living in Meghalaya. Garos want a separate state for them. Jaintias are also demanding separate state for them. And their demand for separate states is supported by the Khasis. For the reason that Khasis believe that all the central grants coming to the state is divided among the three tribal communities. If Khasis get a different state for them, so they will be entitled to have complete control over the resources coming from the center for their development, and they need not have to share that with other tribal communities. So now the interesting development comes up here is that who is getting how much of resources from the center state is becoming a crucial factor for the mobilization of ethnic groups and growing political aspiration, driving them towards the demand for the creation of a small state. Small is beautiful, but too small is disintegrative. Therefore, if we create states consisting of few population on the basis of populistic demands, making of India will be greatly difficult. Rather, negotiating with the challenges coming from the people of India will be a big task in front of the state. So therefore, regionalism one see in case of Northeast, it's so different from Assam and also different from that of South India. If one looks into regionalism in case of Maharashtra, it is having an interesting dimension. Around 1970s, one will be finding out a large body of South Indian population came to Maharashtra in search of employment opportunities. And Mumbai is a place where cultural pluralism is greatly glorified. People from different parts of the country are engaged in different kinds of activities. And since modern education reached South India fast, most of the Tamilian population came to Bombay in search of employment opportunities. And most of them got associated with industries, educational institutions and bureaucracy. So their presence was greatly visible. Son of the Soil movement was initiated by Shiv Sena at that point of time, indicating that native Maharashtrians are not getting access to modern employment because most of these opportunities are taken over by the people coming from South India. So similarly, one finds out in contemporary context, when North Indians are going in the direction of Maharashtra in search of employment opportunity, Shiv Sena, Maharashtra Navnirman Sena are questioning to the presence of Biharis, presence of UPites in case of Maharashtra. So therefore, regionalism is evolving into a phenomena where the people living in a particular territory, they consider they have got first right over the territory and other Indians do have, no right or little right over their territory, resources available there and opportunities available there. In this context, if one looks into the way regionalism is articulated in India, it is creating a kind of heartburn, it is creating a kind of divisiveness in Indian society today. Constitution of India is guaranteeing freedom to all the citizens of the country to move from one part of the country to the other part without any discrimination. If one is prohibiting one group of people to the other part of the country, that ultimately gives rise to contest and conflict. Therefore, so long as regionalism is just primarily associated with call for a state, somehow that is acceptable. If regionalism is giving rise to inclusion and exclusion, if regionalism is challenging to Constitution of India, rights of a citizen in Indian society, then that regionalism is going to split India into pieces. Therefore, time has come for self-introspection to see in what direction, in which form we can take regionalism in Indian society. If regionalism is divisive, we have to counter to it. If regionalism is talking about pride, dignity, political participation and inclusiveness, that is strengthening to Indian democracy, we must have to appreciate it. We must have to keep in mind that in case of Punjab, regionalism evolved for a specific purpose, it got a new dimension, and that is different from regionalism in other parts of the country. After India's independence, we have seen how this Sikh community, they contributed immensely to independence of India. Subsequently, Green Revolution gave rise to the consolidation of Jat Sikhs. They became a part of Akali Dal, captured political power, and 20% of the scheduled castes, non-Jat Sikhs, they became the favorites of Congress. One would be finding out these non-Jat Sikhs, their relationship with the Jat Sikhs can be explained in terms of bourgeois proletariat relationship. When economic prosperity got associated with the Jat Sikhs, the small farmers, peasants, non-beneficiaries, workers were the migrant laborers coming from outside or the non-Jat Sikhs. And these non-Jat Sikhs, after a point of time, were greatly powerless. They developed political aspiration and found out a kind of leadership in Bhindranwal. The militantistic Sikh leadership, initially supported to non-Jat Sikhs, fought against Jat Sikhs, and subsequently his mobilization got a kind of secessionist dimension. Therefore, regionalism can lead to secessionism. Regionalism can give rise to the creation of a small state. Within a region, there can be sub-regionalism present. Therefore, regionalism can be expressive, it can be implicit, it can be divisive, it can be strengthening to Indian democracy. In the concluding part of my lecture, I would tell that if one looks into Darjeeling Hill, one finds out there the basic demand of the Gorkhas was the inclusion of Nepali language in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. The demand was fulfilled. Thereafter, they made a kind of demand for giving specific autonomy to them. autonomy to manage resources available there, employment opportunities, that autonomy has also been given to them. So, despite giving this autonomy to the people living in Gorkhaland region, so people are slowly developing a new kind of political aspirations, and that aspiration of primarily making of a state. Similarly, one finds out the creation of Chhattisgarh, creation of Jharkhand, creation of Uttarakhand were greatly made on the basis of the demands of the people. Smaller states will be created, good governance is greatly possible, natural resources will be exploited, people will get access to employment opportunities. Therefore, when democracy becomes stronger, economic aspirations of the people become intensified. These people are coming together, asking for the creation of small states so that their political and economic aspirations can be gratified. Last but not the least, if one looks into the division of Andhra Pradesh, creation of Telangana, one will be finding a paradox between old Telangana movement and new Telangana movement. Now, the whole idea of creating Telangana was grounded on both historicity and contemporary needs. Historicity means during nationalist movement, Telangana movement has also got a momentum. People of Telangana wanted a kind of autonomy for themselves. After the creation of linguistic states in India by State Reorganization Commission, we had made an agreement, gentleman's agreement, that overall development of the region will be taken care of. Now, since small states are created and one part of unified or united Andhra Pradesh is still lying backward, to convert that backward regions into forward region, there is a call for the creation of Telangana. Now, after Telangana is created, there is a debate. Who should be having access to Andhra Pradesh? Access to Hyderabad. If Telangana get access to Hyderabad, then what kind of compensation center is going to give to Simandhra? So, therefore, regionalism is greatly driven by economic interest. How much of territory I get, how much of access I do have over industries, how much of grant from the center I get, how greatly my political aspiration is fulfilled. If regionalism is primarily limited to only the creation of states, that is acceptable. But one finds out exodus is getting a momentum in case of India. If people belonging to another area are living in a new state, living in a particular state, they are supposed to go out. In Karnataka, northeast people are driven away. Atrocity against these northeast people in case of Delhi is talking about the fact how intolerant we are evolving into a nation. Therefore, regionalism to me is not something divisive, it is something strengthening to democracy, but we have to convert negative regionalism into positive regionalism to feel proud of India.
Definitely, sir, you have said rightly that our objective of regionalism, that is not of division, that is of integration it should be. Thank you so very much for delivering such a nice lecture and giving us such a deep insight into this very topic. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.